Welcome back. I'm Alan McPhee, and this is the Alchemist Circle. And today I want to talk about nuclear transmutation. Now, I should warn you that this particular channel is for anyone who's interested in alchemy, but who don't know anything about it. So we're looking at basic ideas, we're looking at history, we're looking at it from different angles. And I am giving you my interpretation. I'm not pretending like I can summarize all the works out there, because the works are all over the place. I do read them, and I will talk about specific texts like the Emerald Tablet and the Kabbalion as we go along. I would like to have a whole section actually on the Kabbalion. I want to look at all those principles in detail, but I won't go through all the texts, but at least the major principles. So I have been having a discussion about transmutation, and I had to just have a small discussion on magical transmutation. Now I need to have another talk on nuclear transmutation. And I'm having to talk on nuclear transmutation primarily to convey to everyone in the channel that the idea of transmutation is fully embraced by science. What is denied, what they reject, is that ordinary people, especially of the ancient world or even the Middle Ages, had the capacity or had the power or energy to make it happen. But scientists confirm transmutation today. So today I'm just doing a little research, so I'm looking up some concepts, and here's some of what my research shows, right? And have a talk, such that we can understand we're on the same page, so that when we use transmutation in our way, it's still a natural phenomenon, right? So nuclear transformation is when you look at a cell, not a cell, my bad, not a cell. A cell is the nucleus for us human living things. When we look at nature itself, the cell becomes the atom. The atom is a small little machine that has electrons floating on the outside, certain number of electrons, and on the inside there's a nucleus. It has protons and neutrons. There are 92 natural atoms, and I guess 14 artificial atoms. Maybe there's 18, 16. I'm not sure about the numbers right now. When we think of the periodic table of elements from the scientists, all right, those elements, that's what I'm talking about. 92 of them are naturally occurring in nature. So a nuclear transmutation. So a transmutation is when one atom becomes another atom on that table. That's basically what it is. But how does it occur? Isn't this fundamental reality? Yes, it is. Except for the way science understands atoms to be made, at least the natural atoms, is that a certain atom differs from another atom based on the number of protons and neutrons it has on the inside at the core, called the nucleus. On the outside, the number of electrons you're going to typically have matches or is proportionate to what's on the inside, depending on the stability of that atom or isotope. Another fancy word for an atom. Okay, let's just leave it that word like that. Now, so if one of these atoms were to be able to drop a proton or drop a neutron from in the core, it will become a different element or something completely different. And that's what my nuclear transmutation. Now, let's see what my research shows, all right? The research shows that when you think of where these things occur, right? Most naturally, we think about the sun, and I mentioned that before. The sun is a natural fusion reactor. It takes things and fuses them, and it transmutes, this is according to the research, right? It transmutes light elements into heavier elements through stellar nucleosynthesis, okay? So through this nuclear fusion, you create the heavier elements, right? So, and what does that mean? You have the table of elements there, and the stars themselves produce different elements. The fundamental structure of the universe is produced basically by the stars. You can say basically a star is an element generator, a transmuter. That's what it is. A star is a transmuter. We want to use small basic language to understand philosophically what's going on, but a cell, a star, is a transmuter. It transmutes lighter elements to heavier elements. Let me see a little more of my research. Natural transmutation by stellar nucleosynthesis in the past created most of the heavier chemical elements in the known existing universe, and continues to take place to this day, creating the vast majority of the most common elements in the universe, including helium, oxygen, carbon. Most stars carry out transmutation through fusion reaction involving hydrogen, helium, while much larger stars are also capable of fusing heavier elements up to iron late in their evolution. Now, I'm just reading from my research notes I have here, just reading some of the stuff for you. And what I'm saying is that science embraces transmutation. This is how your elements are formed. All the alchemists of the ancient world, those who were the chemical alchemists, not esoteric alchemists, those who were the chemical alchemists, they were saying, oh, the things are made of smaller parts. Let's begin to do our chemical processes. They didn't use the word chemical at that time, but they were taking the liquids and know the smaller parts. Mercury, it must be made of some kind of parts. Lead is made of another parts, and gold is valuable. You know, these are all metals, and they were trying to figure out what connection they can make to produce, to change one element to another element, go from lead into gold. And even though people often laugh at this idea, you should know scientists did actually replicate this idea. They took mercury and they had a nuclear reactor of some sort, and they bombarded the mercury with enough electromagnetic field, with enough radiation. And guess what? They got bits of gold, which means the fundamental theory of the alchemists is true beyond a shadow of a doubt. But that doesn't mean you are going to be able to make gold very soon. Create it or make it however you want to say it. It doesn't mean you're going to make it real soon. Why? Because when the scientists finished with their experiment, they realized it's true, but they took so much energy to create such a small amount of gold, it is not cost effective. And I want to say this, again, this is very, very important. Science itself has engaged in transmutation. It's true beyond a shadow of a doubt. But what is equally true from what the science look at, or even looking at the stars, is that it takes so much energy. You know what the sun is? You know how big it is? And to form those elements. And then when the scientists did their experiment, they put all that energy to change, to create a small bit of gold and had all that energy. It's not cost effective. So philosophically, transmutation is true beyond a shadow of a doubt, but practically it might not be the most effective way to get things done. I don't want to deny the criticism of the previous alchemists, all right? But I want to do one thing and say they are correct. The philosophy they had is true and is borne out by science in many, many ways, all right? It's borne out by science in many, many ways. And also nature itself, okay? Nature itself. When you have radioactive decay, you also have transmutations. I want to talk about one more thing I discovered. They say you can also have man-made transmutation. Now, this is science again now, artificial transmutation. Those alchemists couldn't do it, but we can do it, all right? And what is that? Where did that appear in their system? Particle accelerators, okay? Tokamak reactors, fission power reactors. All of these big super billion-dollar systems that the science have created, which they have so much energy, they're colliding particles together, they're fusing them together. All of this work are such that you can have new elements emerge when they're doing their experiment and things of that kind, right? So there is even an artificial level in which elements can emerge. For example, and a little research, for example, when a uranium atom is bombarded with slow neutrons, fission takes place. This releases, on average, 3 neutrons and a large amount of energy. The released neutrons then cause fission of other uranium atoms until all the available uranium is exhausted. This is called chain reaction. So in this particular one, and they use the transmutation the way I like to use it sometimes, they take something, okay, like the uranium, and they cause a reaction internally of releasing energy, called a chain reaction, and then the uranium is gone. To me, that's also a form of transmutation, especially in esoteric alchemy. You have an emotion you don't like, hate, and you don't try to transmute it into love, you just make it cause a chain reaction and it goes away. So you are emotionally neutral about the topic. All right. That's also a transmutation that people don't talk about. But this one is looking at right here. If we can have radioactive material that really is bothersome, rather than trying to bury it, if we can study how the causal reaction of those particular materials, they'll just dissolve. The fundamental particles goes into energy and we don't have to worry about them anymore. This is great research, and they should continue to engage in that kind of research so that we don't have to worry about nuclear waste from the power plants that we use a lot, okay? And so again, I'm gonna stop here, but you get the point, I hope at this point. You get the point that now transmutation, nuclear transmutation is something that really actually occurs. And I'm gonna agree, okay? This is a change of substance. It's very difficult to see that happening, somebody going to lab and doing the chemicals. However, the logic, the philosophy behind it is real. Now, I do want to develop the idea of transmutation of substance in terms of health, that the cells themselves, right, are going to go through a reaction. And this is still research for me, a reaction that when you eat a nutritional meal, it has the right atoms or molecules that the cells use in that particular area. And then it takes those, absorb those molecules as part of themselves, and then reject molecules that are not natural products, that is not health promoting. And so that you can transmute the substance of the cell so that it has the most efficient kind of atoms and molecules necessary for its optimum functionality. That's the kind of theory I'm working for in terms of transformation, esoteric transformation of substance, okay? Esoteric transformation of substance. But today's talk really defends the ideas of the philosophers in the past, or not the philosophers, the alchemists of the past, who really were trying to turn base metal into gold. It's really doable. If I want to criticize them, I can't criticize them because I'm in the modern time. We know all of the research, so many people, so many brains, so many geniuses, so many work from called scientists today. So I can talk about them, but I can't criticize them like that. They didn't have all of that. All they were super geniuses. They could see in the fundamental reality. That's why their fundamental truths are still true today. Maybe they got a little, I don't know, too ambitious, thinking they can actually, make the transformation quickly by themselves. I'll accept that, but I'm not going to criticize them. I just want to recognize their historical contribution to our understanding today. So if you agree, or if you disagree, please share your comments down below. I am Alan McPhee, the Alchemist.